Hello everyone, Jonathan here again, International Man of Mystery. Well, I was an International Man of Mystery to myself as well. I was very confused as a child. Where I live here in Finland, many people have judged me. Oh, that England guy. Oh, that Scotland guy. Oh, that American guy. Oh, that. Why are Finns such ice heads that they think people are just one thing? Like they think they're a passport. Is is the guy in Finland? Is the guy in Minnesota whose family came from Finland not Finnish? I mean, and I also find it quite insulting to the Native Americans as well to call white people Americans. Um, I know it's kind of easier, but I do think that people's roots matter. I think people's bloodlines matter a lot. And I found that out with myself. My family were Scottish immigrants to North America, kind of spread around. My biological mother ended up with me in New York. She traveled around a lot. I wonder where I get it from. Well, eventually the social workers took her off me when I was 2 years old. So I was broken from a natural family. And my grandparents were supposed to take responsibility for me, but they wouldn't do it because my grandfather was a priest and it was embar- or he was a minister, sorry, but it was embarrassing to be uh, pregnant out of wedlock in 1981, 1982. I was born in 82. Um, so the grandmother wanted to take responsibility, but he started to threaten divorce. But I found this all out later. I had no clue about any of it. I went through my childhood wondering who the hell I was. My adoptive family never told me much about them. I don't know if they didn't want me to know about them. I was adopted by an Italian family in the Bronx, and that was very strange. Um, when I was quite young, I didn't really have memory of my mom. It kind of slipped somehow. My adopted mother would say I was part of their family, but I knew something was wrong with that because I had reddish blonde hair when I was a kid and blue eyes, and all the people had black hair. And I asked, "Mommy, why does why does everyone have dark hair and dark eyes in the family and I don't?" And she would, with her really strong Italian accent, she would say, "Oh God, yeah, yeah, that's because uh um some Italians have blue eyes." And well, basically they lied to me. I didn't know who I was. I've seen old movies of myself I just had a broken accent, a broken way of speaking. It was like it was just it was it was messed up. It was like it sounded it sounded Irish with these Celtic tones and with some Bronx mixed into it because of being around them. Um, so so I lost my dialect. I lost my language, and I grew up not knowing who I was. But strangely enough, I had some inclinations to things. Like I noticed when I would hear Irish music, I would really like it. Or when I hear bagpipes, I would get really excited. It was I, I don't know why. I just thought it was another instrument. But I remember one day the most significant thing was I think I was 8 years old watching the movie Rob Roy, and on came that Gaelic a cappella, which I think it's from Lewis, or it could be from Isla Harris. But anyway, when I heard that, I got chills all over my body, it tingling everywhere, like I knew the language somehow. And then I knew I started finding stuff out, and I also noticed when I was a kid, although I wasn't raised with this kind of stuff. Well, I kind of was. As one uncle used to show me books on fairies and elves and giants. He would show me um well, that was my adoptive family. He would show me my hands are fucking shaking. So yeah, books on fairies, elves, basic north northern European mythology, Irish, Germanic stuff, uh, you know, I guess Celtic, whatever, uh, Norse stuff. And I noticed when I was a kid, right away, there was something about it that it was familiar to me. I was very attracted to it. And I remembered loving sword fighting movies like Conan the Barbarian and Red Sonja. She was actually my first crush, Red Sonja. But that explains the violent women I've ended up with in the future. But anyway, um, now let me plug this fucking shit in. Now, being how do I explain this? No. So I'm in the Bronx, and I was a white minority there. I was into metal at like 7, and I had this long red blonde hair. It was beautiful hair I used to have, not now. This is dyed crap, and really, really blue eyes. But there was so few white people where I was that they asked me if I had contact lenses, and I didn't know what racism was because my first two friends were Jamaican. And I've always felt a kinship with the Jamaicans, but it turns out the first slaves there were Gaelic speaking Scots and Irish. Some say indentured servants. Depends how you want to look at it. I think a slave is a slave. So they mixed together, apparently. From anyway, I'm going off topic here. Oh yeah, yeah, my friends. So we didn't know what racism was. We were always running around and playing all the time. And I always noticed I was really into medieval books. Um, I think there was something in me, and it wasn't just my uncle showing me that. I think there is some. sort of genetic memory that people can have. And of course, Lord of the Rings and Hobbit and everything like that. I used to see the cartoons all the time. Now, the Bronx was a nightmare. Me with that red blonde hair, people called me, yo, white bitch, and stuff like that. I constantly got racist names from both the blacks and the Puerto Ricans. So if you want to tell me that racism is only from white people, you're full of shit and you're some spoiled brat who's lived in the suburbs his whole life only around white people. So you're a dumbass. Okay, but back to what I was saying. So the racism, the bullying, which is why I'm a bit traumatized. Kids older than me picking me up, throwing me in the garbage, throwing bottles at my head because I was white, constantly sh- shaking. And that's probably why I started drinking when I was 13 because I couldn't handle being there. And a bottle was a good weapon. I would carry a 22 ounce just in case I had to use it, going through alleyways and places like that. Now, when I was only like 7 or 8, I was already carrying mace and a switchblade. No 7 or 8 year old should have to carry a switchblade and mace. Um, yeah, I didn't get that much. Oh, no, I still didn't. Yeah, I did it in the courtyard where I lived. But luckily, the thing was that Italian family had a summer home upstate. Or that's why they were broke all the time. All the money went to that. But it was beautiful there. And when I would see it just the hills and the glens and the mountains, they all look so familiar. And everything felt normal again. Running through the grass, running barefoot for hours on end, catching frogs in the streams, catching fish. Um, there was hawks there, deer. Luckily, the family that raised me, though, they were actually into hunting, so I started shooting guns really young, which might come in handy one day if the Russians invade. Um, but anyway, riding my bicycle all the way to Lake Deconic, and the town, the closest town, was founded by a guy named Livingston. And Livingston is a place in Scotland. He was a lowlander who founded the town. The reason why is because they wanted a land that looked like their home. Probably because the English fucked it up so much. Or maybe they just did it for opportunity. Um, anyways, running through streams barefoot. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the Italian family, the grandfather, he was pretty cool, but he'd always say, "Hey, you cut you're gonna cut your foot on a rock." And I would never cut my feet on rocks, like, and running barefoot felt so normal for me. And later in life, I actually found out that the Gaels used to do that. It was like really normal for people in Scotland to run around barefoot. And the same thing in Ireland too, but Scots and Irish, they went back and forth all the time. I mean, almost the same type of peoples. Um, so when we would go into town, to the main town, Hudson, New York, which is near the Catskill Mountains, I noticed I liked all the girls there. I had crushes on them at a really young age, like only like 7. And they all had this, like, there was a lot of redheaded women with blue eyes, black hair, pale skin, black freckles, really rare genetics. That that's a really Gaelic thing or whatever to have, or Irish or Scottish, and blonde women with blue eyes, and they had this really comfortable accent when they spoke, and they were so polite when you would go into a shop, and everything was so beautiful there, and they would have this accent like a twang, this kind of twang like, "How y'all doing today? Welcome to shop, right?" But there was something comfortable about it and charming, and I have a theory that the people in that area, because also there was a town as well called Livingston nearby, and then the Catskill Mountains was probably named after Magatskill, which is, a Hebridean name. And of course, probably, I don't know, but anyway, but few people know this. The Catskill Mountains, which is near Hudson, is a region of Appalachia. So I have a theory that the reason they had that twang was because they were Appalachians that came down from the mountains. So that would mean they were Scots Irish, or both Scottish and Irish. And I think they came down to lower land to farm because it was easier to get around, and hills, and the farming land there is amazing. It's a beautiful place if you ever visit. And that's all I ever wanted. I didn't even want to travel the world or anything. I was so happy there. Life was so great there. And unfortunately, I had a brother in the family that used to drown me in the swimming pool. They had a swimming pool there, where I was quite lucky, but he would drown me in the swimming pool, and no one did anything about it. Um, which probably left some traumas to me. Drown me in the swimming pool. Beat me up. I'd end up with bloody nose. Um, Sometimes I get him back good, but mostly I just tried to run away from him. Shit, sound like a ghost in here. I swear my house is haunted. I'm not really not joking. The light bulbs go on and off. Things like kind of fly around. Um, I hear really weird sounds all the time, especially lately, and I don't know why. I'm getting the chills right now. But so what the hell is I saying? Um, yeah, but really, like I didn't give a fuck about where I was from. Really, I didn't really care that much, really. So, but yeah, up there wasn't anyone into rap. It was all hillbillies with metal shirts and long hair, which was great. It's right up my alley, you know. um, Lots of beautiful farmland, hawks, eagles. I mean, it was paradise for me, and I still like it because of the biodiversity that exists there. Sorry, I've been having insomnia a few days, and my hands are shaking really bad. That's why this is flipping. Shit. Let's see. Ah. As you can see, I got Statue of Thor runes there, Icelandic stuff. The tree Ogum, that's Celtic. You know, I was always drawn to this stuff, and I didn't really know why. I didn't overthink it. Um, Trying to think what else I was saying. So every time we would, every time I'd wake up in the morning in upstate, the first thing I would do, I would run out so happy, run out there, and because they had a swimming pool, and frogs would get stuck in the skimmer. So I would want to save all the frogs because I loved frogs, and I would save them all and rescue them. And I used to sometimes take the frogs and put them in a big aquarium and just have frogs for the summer for fun. Like collect newts, different newt, and I had books on newts, toads, frogs, um, and I would identify them. I keep them in a tank, and we had a screened-in porch. So see, this is the good part of my life. So I've lived through heaven and hell, and I would collect bugs from the screened-in porch, and I would feed the toads and the frogs and the newts and salamanders all summer, and then at the end of the summer, I would let them go. You know, I was good at catching snakes. I was just a nature person. I just feel really close and inclined to nature, and I can't see why anyone wouldn't. I can't stand groups of people on this planet who want to live in cities all the time. And um, but anyways, every time I'd wake up in the morning, before I opened my eyes, I would pray, please, please don't let it be the Bronx. And I'd wake up and it'd be upstate, and I'd be so happy in upstate New York. Um, it was actually where I saw my first ghost. I didn't believe in ghosts until I saw one. I thought it was a real person walking in the woods, and then um, it got near a tree and it just totally vanished. I was yelling to it and everything. So after that day, I started believing in ghosts. Um, okay, so and their grandfather was on the other side of the property, and he had a tiny wee house that reminded me of a hobbit home, and I wanted to inherit that house, but that adopted family of mine, they sold it off and didn't care about it. It's probably because my brother's rehab had to be paid for it, and he ended up later robbing my mother and robbing her on her deathbed. She was working for the father's shop and robbing him. He robbed my gun. I had a Remington. What do you call it? Lever action, the classic one. It's fucking great. I used to shoot 22 rifles. That was my first. 30-06, 12 gauge shotgun, 9 millimeter pistol, 22 caliber pistols, things like that. BB guns sometimes. Um, the nature there was so pure, and the water, it's the best water I ever drank in my life. It was so full of minerals. Um, so, anyways, when we go back down to the uh, the Bronx, I would just the smell of pollution was horrible, and I hated the way it smelled. It was noisy and loud, and everyone was so rude. The Bronx is the stupidest borough. They have the worst people there. In the Bronx, the statistics are you're 9 or 10 times more likely to be killed from a gun murder than all the other boroughs in New York City. Um, yeah, and when I would get there, it was like I started shaking again. That's why I have this kind of panic disorder thing because my adrenaline levels get super high. But and in fights, I have hurt people really badly when I've gotten older because of my adrenaline levels get really super high. It's like a nervous condition that's kind of tied to the high adrenaline levels or whatever. So I get back to the Bronx, and it's a nightmare again. And I went to Catholic school, and that was okay actually. And the church was really nice. It looked like a church from Europe. It looked like something from Italy or Ireland, and it probably was. Probably the builders were both from Italy and Ireland, because those are two Catholic countries that you know immigrated to the States. Um, my Filipino friends, we went to this place called Parkchester once in the Bronx. Really far we went. People call it Darkchester for a reason. A bunch of black kids way bigger than us tried to jump us and throw rocks at us. Yo, white boy, you in the wrong neighborhood. Then what was it? Yo, Jackie Chan, Ching Chang Chong, and stuff like that. But they were really gonna hurt us. And I had to go up with a can of mace and mace one of the fuckers and mace the next guy. And then I had to tell my friends to run. And then we all ran into a pizzeria and told them what's happening. That these guys are chasing us. And it was run by Mexicans, and they were really cool. They were nice. Um, a lot of people in Finland have a really stupid understanding of New York City. They believe these stereotypes, and they don't know what they're fucking talking about. There's all types of people there. I knew people with Irish accents, Italian accents. I had friends who their parents spoke Italian in the house every time I went over. I had friends who their family spoke Russian when I went there, Polish. And it's always this kind of joke they make about American people. And they say to me, "Oh, yeah, but you're American." It's like, my ancestors weren't Pocahontas. Is Pocahontas my ancestor? That's an insult to the natives. And I had friends who, yeah, parents spoke Filipino around them. That was pretty. That was pretty nice. Um, my first, the first love of my life, she was from Poland. Actually, I was 16, she was 19, and she was an Amazon. I mean, the hips, tremendous, the ass, and muscular and meaty at the same time. Perfect 36 C's. I shouldn't be telling people that. I'm sorry. Um, but I mean, she was outstanding. I mean, uh, perfect, beautiful lips and everything. She was older than me and bigger than me. And well, that was a real ride going on there. Um, well, I'm trying to think what else I was trying to say. Yeah, how people don't really understand New York City and they judge and they stereotype people, and I hate that. I was lucky. I could, in a way, when I went down to Manhattan, because I could go watch bagpipe parades. I saw bagpipe parades. I ate at Italian restaurants when I was in. There was an Irish area in the Bronx that hardly anyone knows about. That it's on the border of Yonkers and Bronx, and there's actually people with Irish accents there, like a lot of them. There's Irish everywhere there. There's people who play bagpipes too. Um, I don't know why Finland cares about a country that they've never been to. If you like America so much, fucking go there, go visit. Simple as that. Um, so trying to think what else to see. I guess that's all for this video. I guess it's almost up to 30 seconds. Yeah, but I'll definitely be making more videos because this was actually a nice talk to have. And there's my cool fireplace again. Well, it's not a real one, but but I can always pretend. Oh yeah, that grandfather's home I was talking about. It had a really low roof so you could keep the heat in, and it had a huge fireplace, like a really deep, huge fireplace. And in winter nights, I'd sit there. Who would want anything more than that? All I wanted was that and a dog, and go hunting, go deer hunting. I love the taste of venison. Like we used to have venison all the time, fermented in wine. Why would you go away from a life like that to the Bronx? I was really surprised that their sons didn't really appreciate it that much, except for one of them, who was into hunting and fishing like me. Um, oh yeah, but that was the thing. I didn't really care really where I was from, but uh, I started frequenting the British Isles already when I was a teenager, and I noticed like when I got there, like wait, something feels normal. And I noticed the further up I went north in England to North England, it started to feel more normal. And then when I was in Scotland, I was like, holy shit, I'm home. Everything looked familiar, like everything felt familiar. And then the people had this connection with me, and I felt like I was talking to relatives when the people who raised me, there was the people who raised me. I mean, yeah, I mean there was good and bad going on there, good times and bad times. I was neglected a lot. I didn't have my own bed. I didn't know where I was going to sleep on the floor, sleep on the couch. It was upstate though. It was okay. You could just like camp on a sleeping bag and that's fine. But I mean, in the living room. But yeah, I have memories of when I was a kid. I definitely wasn't taken care of properly because I was wiping my shit on the walls. I was only like 3. I never used to brush my teeth, and kids used to yell, like make fun of me that my teeth were yellow. No one was keeping after the proper things that I was supposed to do. Uh, I wouldn't have underwear when I went to school sometimes. There was no clean socks. My mother would take dirty socks out of the laundry bag and put them on me. And what the hell is this? Um, there was mice in that apartment, but I'm talking about in the Bronx, heaven and hell. Uh, you go to the kitchen to eat something and you see a mouse just, and it's like take care of this fucking infestation problem. You fucking live with roaches and mice and not do anything about it. Yeah, so that's why I was really different than them, and I noticed that quite early because I noticed I was smarter than them, even though I was a kid. I used to have to point like really obvious things out to them, and they would get angry. Instead of being proud of me, instead of going, "This kid has a high IQ, you know, he could be rich. You know, he could make our family rich one day and come up with things," and which, if I would have been able to concentrate at school, that would have probably happened. If they would have helped me to get educated, but they didn't. They would always just yell at me, but they wouldn't guide me to do anything. Um, they wouldn't, yeah, they wouldn't guide me. Uh, Yelling stuff, and there was fighting, yelling at each other all the time like idiots. Um, and I might as well make this a long one anyway, because I got so much to say. Come to think of it, I'm trying to think of anything else I have in my story. Oh, I that's right. I went so I like went back to the States to visit or whatever. I don't know how this happened, but well, anyway, at some point, I chased down my biological mom and my grandparents. I met her, met my sister Lyric. My mom's name was Melody, and the grandparents uh, met me like they met me only once, and it was like I don't know if it was for a show, or I don't know if they were disappointed in me because of the way I dressed. Because it turned out my mother was just like me. She was into punk music, into rock music and metal. Some things are really genetic. Um, but yeah, then they abandoned me again. They just decided to not talk to me, and I was willing to let the abandonment thing go. I just wanted to know them. Wasn't expecting anything from them. I wanted them to um, just acknowledge me. So there I was, abandoned again and hurt. And then that mother of my Melody, she died during the Corona time recently. So I only got to meet her again one time. But my sister Lyric and Allison, at least they tell me they love me and they treat me like family. That's really great. And also, um, our our uncle Adam. And it turned out lo and behold, everyone was musical. My sister played piano. What was it? Adam, the guy who was a genius, um, he sings on Broadway opera and does Broadway plays, and he was doing that for a while, singing in Italian, French, and German, which you got to do in opera. But then he was, I think he was sick of getting paid only for the gigs. Oh, you get paid a lot, but he wanted something consistent. I think that's what happened. And then he just decided to become a scientist. It's like, how can someone be that intelligent? You know what I mean? Uh, I don't think anything else I had to say. Yeah, and Adam, he played a bunch of different instruments, and um, there's some people related to us out west who play like guitar for the church and stuff like that. So the music talent thing is obviously genetic. Um, and then so found out who I really was, but I mean, I'm quite linguistic. I was interested in Swedish already at 18. I was studying Swedish on my own when I was 18. Then after that, it was the first like language I was interested in, like because it sounded normal, like it sounded really familiar to me, you know. Uh, and I picked up a load of different dialects, like sponge from being in all these different places in England, and then uh, but then later in life, I just started going to Scotland. Once I started going there, I started going back again and back again and back again, like nonstop, you know. And I was walking in places that I've seen in my dreams, and I didn't know it was the place. Like I had a dream just of a place. I didn't know even what country it was. And all of a sudden, I'm in a big street in Edinburgh, and I'm like, "Holy shit! I saw this in my dreams." I guess we'll have a conversation more about the past lives things later. But yeah, the ground I walked on just felt normal. It felt like home. People judge me here in Finland because when I moved here, I talked different, but I can bend between different dialects and accents. I could bend between Scots Germanic, Scottish English. People don't understand me. I can go around and I could pick up dialects and pick up different pieces of stuff, and sometimes it's a muckle bunch of uh, different things mixed together. And of course, learning Finnish later on, because I moved to Finland, affected how I spoke English, and then I started giving heavy R's. I was naturally able to do the R for whatever reason, but then that started bleeding into my English. A lot of times, one language that I speak will mesh into the next language. So, for instance, if I'm speaking and practicing my Scottish Gaelic, the mother of my son thinks I'm drunk because and accuses me of being drunk because she thinks I sound Irish because she doesn't understand linguistics. If I'm practicing Irish Gaelic just before, then I'm gonna sound more Irish. I swear there's ghosts in this fucking place. There's always noises and I'm getting chills. Uh, but yeah, then then if a lot of people accuse the Outer Hebridean Gaelic speakers to that being Irish when they're speaking English, but the Irish accent came from Irish people being forced to speak English. So Irish Gaelic, Scottish Gaelic, you talk back and forth, and it starts to mishmash or whatever. Um, and then if I've been talking on the phone really often to my Scottish friends, and then I go talking to people, they get confused because then I sound much more Scottish. If I've been talking to my friends from the U.S., um, I'll sound more American, and I get kind of annoyed sometimes of talking English with Finns because they all use the American English, and I don't really like American English. I think it sounds obnoxious and annoying. I think it's boring and plain. Um, so learning Finnish was difficult, though. I studied it for 4 years, or 4.5 years altogether. But I retaught myself Scottish Gaelic on my own. Basically, I started just sitting in front of the computer and doing it for hours and hours. I would stay in the winter and isolate from people because I didn't give a fuck about much people anymore, anyways, because of how people treated me um, in the punk scene here in Finland. Um, which I'm going to take a few of them out. But, no, I didn't say that. Um, so, what else do I have to say about linguistics and places? And well, I might as well throw this one in there. Well, I might as well throw this one in there while I'm here. This is one of the strangest ones I've ever had. Okay, so when I was a kid, or what was I, late teen or something like that, but anyway, I had a dream of this place. Well, I knew it was Scotland, but I didn't know where. And there were, you could tell it was like the late 1600s or early 1700s. And it was, I won't want to say the name of the place yet, but it had a cobblestone roads. It was a wee town with, and you could tell it was a long time ago because of the lamps were those old lamps that you had to light with candles. I'm on horseback talking near one of those lampposts to three redcoat soldiers And out of nowhere, when talking to him, in the middle of nowhere, I grabbed a big sword and I killed one of them and I killed the other. I didn't know what kind of sword it was. I didn't see the sword. I killed one, I killed the other, and the other one shot me with a musket. He shot me with a musket. I opened up my shirt and I was wearing outdated armor. That's why I think it was the 1600s, because some of the Scots were still wearing old, outdated armor from the 1600s. I think during, yeah, but they usually wore outdated things were pretty normal in the Highlands. And then the guy rode away, and then in my dream, the next thing I knew, I was in a basement, and there was all these swords everywhere, and there was all these different ones like old claymores, the broadswords too were there. Um, and then I knew she was my aunt, and she started laughing and crackling like a witch. She's for some reason she said, "Ha ha ha! Either today's gonna be a wedding or it's gonna be a funeral." And like she was totally nuts. And I just woke up. I was like, "What the fuck?" And it was a weird dream. And the first time I ever went to Portree, Isle of Skye, in my life, it was I got out of the bus and I was like, "What the fuck? This is the same place." I was just frightened almost by it. But I was so happy because I went. You know when things like that happen, there's just things out there that we don't know about. The ability of the human mind or psyche. I sometimes wonder if genes carried down in bloodlines. Maybe that's what past life things are. Maybe it's not your dream. Maybe it's your ancestors' dream. I don't know. Science is always finding out new things all the time anyway. So we don't know everything yet. Um, I think that might be what reincarnation is actually. Um, I'm trying to think what else I wanted to talk about. Well, that's one of my kilts up there. That's the one I got married in. I was married to a woman named Ashley Stewart, but she was a Scottish American who never been to Scotland, and I took her there. Um, and that was the kilt I wore. Now it's a bit messed up looking, but it's a black Stewart, and this one's nice. It's my son's. It's a national tartan of Scotland. He doesn't. He wants to dress like his friends, so he doesn't wear that stuff anymore. But we used to go out, and he used to have a Buchanan uh, bonnet, and he would have a national Scotland tartan. But the problem is when his mom took him from me after 2 years, like he didn't care about anything to do with Scotland. It was kind of messed up, and I think that was part of her plan, controlling, and she wants him to be more like her, and that's really fucked up because he's not. He's both sides. He's got Scottish and he's got Finnish. He's half and half, and that's wonderful because his genetics are great. He's highly intelligent. I mean, the kid's a genius. But a lot of people don't know this. The Scots are actually a mixed race of various Celtic tribes, and to put it shortly, in Nordic and Scandinavians and West Germanic peoples. So it's stupid when someone says pure Scottish, but it's probably why. I mean, there's really good looking women there. I mean, I was always astounded. Like I go nuts, and the way they talk, it's so charming. Um, but yeah, I hope I can have the time to speak Scots Gaelic fluently, just because I like to support dying languages. I'll make another video later about how to save Scottish Gaelic. We have to do what the Finns did. The Finns, what they do is when you move to Finland, the first 3 years you get paid to learn the language as your job. So instead of just giving people welfare money, you're giving them extra welfare money to learn the language. And they're doing it 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. And people are like, getting paid to learn a language? I think they should make it a law that when you move to the Hebrides, it's an obligation. You have to do it. You have to do it to move there. It's the only way to save the language. Positive reinforcement too. And a lot of kids that are bored, got nothing to do, they're going to want to do it. And then it's going to attract other Europeans who are interested in it. I'd move there in a snap if I can get paid to to Jesus Christ. Um, if I could get paid to learn it, that would attract so many people, and then the gene pool would get better. Um, so to save Scottish Gaelic, you got to do what the Finns have done, and that's the only way you're going to save Scottish Gaelic. um, that's my kilts there. An axe. That's a Viking axe. What else I got here? It just gets worse every day. That I'm hearing random sounds from a female, and I'm getting chills, and it could just be the insomnia. Maybe insomnia opens you up to that stuff, and the tapping sound again from the corner. Um, but yeah, support Scottish independence. Get at it. Put the Palestine thing down. Fight for your own country first. Stop fighting for other countries. We don't have independence yet. Let other people do that. I don't want to ever do have insomnia again, because it's really fucking creepy, actually. And I don't usually get scared of ghosts. I usually just get interested in them. Maybe all the pagan stuff I have in here that tracks to that. But I got a rosary up there just because I was raised a Catholic, but also for the fact that the Catholics saved Europe from the invading Muslim forces, and now we're so stupid we're paying them to come here. They tried to invade us in the past 3 or 4 times. That should be taught in school so people know that. And there is an agenda to invade and populate. And anyone who tells you that, they're full of shit and they're just pussies. Anyone who tells you different. And I'm sick of the excuses of moderate ones. And it's bullshit. The moderate ones sit back while the extremists do the bombs. You know. And well, anyway, this is um 54-minute show from Jonathan's Story Hour. by his fireplace. I'm gonna keep doing these. These are going really good. I just never figured out how to do it because I'm bad with computers and I'm half blind in one eye. I'm getting hit in the eye with a rock when I was 16. Uh, some kid threw a rock in my eye, so I'm always been half blind in there. So it's hard to use these fucking phones. And these fucking phones, okay, I like this stuff that I'm doing here, but these are one of the worst fucking things invented. We're gonna find out problems with these later. People are gonna find out they have cancer, cancer here, cancer there. There's radiation coming from it. And think about it too. Kids are putting it in their pocket. So there's radiation coming from it. Is that to sterilize our kids? To cut down the human population? I mean, think about it. I wish we could just go back to Nokia phones and the basic computers. I don't even like computers anymore because they're too um, complicated and they keep updating. Once I get to learn how to use one thing, I don't know how to use the next thing. The computers were the best in 2006 or 2010. I was happy just having MySpace and Skype, and they were just basic and easy to use. And I think someone should create computers like that again and sell them purposely like that somehow. But yeah, I look like shit today. I could have dressed up a little better for the video, but I'll try to do that for the next one. Uh, uh, yeah, that's right. Well, good night, everyone. Or you can say good night. Bye.